Worlds apart, Daniel Whitmore stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse. The city lights stretching endlessly below him. 36, he had everything: private jets, a billion-dollar tech empire, and a name that commanded respect. Yet the silence in his luxurious home felt heavier than the weight of his success. He swirled the whiskey in his glass, the amber liquid catching the dim light, and sighed. Another charity event, sir. His assistant, Leonard, asked from the doorway, holding out a sleek, black invitation. The Golden Hope Gala. Another night of hollow smiles and calculated donations. Daniel took the invitation, his fingers brushing the embossed gold lettering. Who's the beneficiary this year? Underfunded schools in the city, Leonard replied. Your presence would secure more donations. Daniel nodded absently. He had built his fortune from nothing, but lately it all felt meaningless. He needed to see where his money was going to remind himself why any of it mattered. Across the city, in a cramped classroom with flickering fluorescent lights, Elena Rivera wiped chalk dust from her hands. Laughter still echoing in the hallway, sighed, looking at the peeling paint and broken desks. Another day of stretching meager supplies to give her students the education they deserved. Miss Rivera. A small voice called from the doorway. Jasmine, one of her shyest students, held out a crumpled drawing. I made this for you. Elena took it, her heart swelling. The crayon sketch showed a stick-figured teacher beside a rainbow. It's beautiful, sweetheart, thank you. As Jasmine skipped away, Elena tucked the drawing into her bag. These made the long hours and low pay worth it. The next day, Daniel arrived at the school unannounced, dressed in a tailored suit that contrasted sharply with the worn-down building. The principal, Ms. Thompson, greeted him nervously. Mr. Whitmore, we're honored. Show me the classrooms, Daniel interrupted, his sharp gaze taking in the cracked tiles and outdated textbooks. Ms. Thompson led him down the hall, stopping at Elena's room. Inside, Elena knelt beside a student, patiently helping him sound out words. She didn't notice the billionaire watching her until Ms. Thompson cleared her throat. Mr. Whitmore, this is Elena Rivera, one of our most dedicated teachers. Elena stood, brushing her hands on her simple skirt. Dark eyes met Daniel's, curious but unimpressed. Welcome to our classroom. Her lack of awe intrigued him. You're doing important work here, he said. Someone has to, she replied with a small smile. These kids deserve more than broken chairs and outdated books. Her bluntness surprised him. Most people tiptoed around his wealth, but Elena spoke her mind without hesitation as they toured the school. Daniel found himself drawn to her passion. She spoke of her students as if they were her own, her voice softening when she mentioned those struggling at home. Why teaching? He asked, as they paused in the empty hallway. Because every child deserves someone who believes in them, she said. Simply, what about you? Why charity? He hesitated. I used to think success was measured in zeros. Now I'm not so sure. Something in his tone made her study him closely. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly seen. That evening back in his penthouse, Daniel couldn't shake Elena's words. He picked up his phone and dialed before he could second-guess himself. Ms. Rivera, he said when she answered. Would you accompany me to the Golden Hope Gala? Silence. Then a soft laugh. You're joking. The event benefits schools like yours. Your perspective could make a real difference. She exhaled. I don't own a gown or know which fork to use. I'll handle the details. Just say yes. Another pause. Then, quietly, one night. For the kids. Daniel smiled. One night, as he hung up, he realized this gala would be unlike any other. Right. The elite wouldn't know what hit them. Elena's world collides with luxury. The boutique was unlike anything Elena had ever seen. Mirrors stretched from floor to ceiling, reflecting the shimmering chandeliers above. Racks of designer gowns lined the walls, each more extravagant than the last. She stood frozen in the doorway, her worn sneakers sinking into the plush carpet. A woman in a sleek black dress approached, her smile polished but not unkind. You must be Elena. Mr. Whitmore sent word you'd be arriving. Elena swallowed. I don't even know where to start. The woman Claire, as she introduced herself, guided her deeper into the boutique. "I'll find something perfect. Mr. Whitmore has excellent taste." Alina bit her lip. "I've never worn anything like this." Claire's expression softened. "And let's make sure your first time is unforgettable." The sister's doubts later in her tiny apartment. Alina stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring at herself in the deep sapphire gown Claire had chosen. The fabric hugged her curves, the delicate beading catching the light with every slight movement. Her younger sister Rosa gaped from the bed. "Dios mío, you look like a movie star." Lena turned, frowning. "I feel like an imposter." Rosa rolled her eyes. "You're going to a gala, not robbing a bank?" "Why are you so nervous?" "Because I don't belong there." Alina sighed, sinking onto the bed beside her. "Daniel's world is private jets and billion-dollar deals. Mine is grading papers and budgeting for rent." Rosa grabbed her hand. "Invited you, didn't he? That means he sees something in you beyond just whatever rich people usually care about." Alina hesitated. "Or he just wants a charity case to show off." Rosa smirked. "Or maybe he's into you." Lena swatted her with a pillow. Daniel's corporate battle across town. Daniel sat in his office, his fingers steepled as his business partner, Marcus, paced angrily. "You're bringing a school teacher to the Golden Hope Gala?" Marcus hissed. "Do you have any idea how that looks?" Daniel didn't flinch. "It looks like I care about the cause. It looks like you're throwing away your reputation." Marcus snapped. "Victoria's already calling every investor, warning them you've lost your mind." Daniel's jaw tightened at the mention of his ex-fiancée. Victoria Kensington, heiress to a media empire, had never forgiven him for ending their engagement. "Victoria doesn't control my life," said coldly. Marcus exhaled sharply. "This isn't just about her. The Kensington merger is on the line. If you humiliate Victoria publicly, her father will pull out." Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the skyline. "Maybe some things are more important than mergers." Marcus stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Who are you right now?" Daniel didn't answer. Victoria's revenge. Victoria. Kensington sat in a velvet booth at Manhattan's most exclusive lounge, her manicured fingers tapping against her champagne flute. Across from her, her closest friends, Isabel DuPont and Lillian Ashford, lined in. Eager for gossip, "Daniel's lost his mind," Victoria announced. "He's bringing some public school teacher to the gala," Isabel gasped. "A teacher? Like an actual civilian?" Victoria's lips curled. "Apparently she's inspiring." She made air quotes, her diamond bracelet glinting under the lights. Lillian smirked.
I'll
"She lasts 5 minutes before she embarrasses herself."
make him.
Victoria swirled her drink. "Oh, I'm counting on it." An unexpected connection the night before the gala. Daniel surprised Alina with dinner at his penthouse, not in some stuffy restaurant she'd feared, but in his private dining room, the city lights sprawling beneath them like scattered stars. Alina, still unused to the elegance, fumbled with her napkin. "You didn't have to do this." Daniel poured her a glass of wine. "I wanted to." She studied him the way his dark hair fell slightly over his forehead, the faint stubble shadowing his jaw. He wasn't just handsome, he was real in a way she hadn't expected. "Why me?" she blurted. He paused, his gaze locking onto hers. "Because when you talk about your students, you light up. I haven't seen passion like that in years." Her breath caught. Then quietly he added, "And because I think you might be the only person who sees me, not the billionaire, not the CEO, just me." The air between them shifted. Alina reached out, her fingers brushing his. "Then I guess we're both out of our depth," turned his hand, intertwining their fingers. Maybe that's not a bad thing. For the first time, Lena wondered if this gala was about more than just charity, and if she was in far deeper than she'd realized. The storm before the gala, the morning of the event. Lena's phone buzzed with a notification. A gossip column. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire's mystery date. Who is the charity case Daniel Whitmore is bringing to the gala?" Her stomach dropped. Attached was a photo of her leaving the school. Grainy but unmistakable. The comments were worse. Gold. Digger alert. She's probably just after his money. Victoria Kensington, would never be caught dead in last season's dress. Elena's hand shook. Then her phone rang. "Daniel," she answered, her voice tight. "Did you see the article?" "Ignore it," he said firmly. They think I'm using you." "I don't care what they think." His voice softened. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated. "Yes." "Then meet me tonight. Let me show you how powerful you really are." Lena took a deep breath. Gala awaited, and she was ready. The grand entrance, the limousine glided to a stop in front of the Metropolitan Museum, where a crimson carpet stretched toward the entrance. Flanked by flashing cameras and murmuring reporters, Elena's stomach twisted as she peered out the tinted window. "Nervous?" Daniel asked beside her, his voice low. She exhaled, terrified. He reached for her hand, his fingers warm against hers. "Remember, you're not here for them. You're here for your students." Elena squeezed his hand, then straightened her shoulders. The car door opened, and the night erupted in camera flashes. Daniel stepped out first, his black tuxedo immaculate. Under the golden lights, then he turned, offering his hand. Elena emerged. The crowd hushed, her gown deep sapphire, off the shoulder, with a slit that hinted at toned legs, was nothing like the stiff, overpriced designs the socialites favored. It was elegant, effortless, and utterly her. Her dark curls cascaded down her back. Her only jewelry, a simple diamond pendant Daniel had insisted matched her eyes. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then the whispers began. "Who is that? She's stunning? Is that really just a teacher?" Daniel tucked her hand into the crook of his arm, leaning down to murmur, "Told you." Lena's lips curved, and just like that, the spell broke. The cameras went wild. The lion's den inside. The ballroom glittered crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed tables, champagne flutes catching the light. The air hummed with the clink of glasses and the murmur of Manhattan's elite. Elena kept her chin high, but her grip on Daniel's arm tightened as heads turned. "Relax," he murmured. "They're staring because they've never seen someone real before." Then a voice cut through the crowd like a knife. "Daniel, darling, you didn't tell me you were bringing a guest." Victoria Kensington glided toward them, her ice blue gown worth more than Elena's yearly salary. Her smile was sharp, her gaze sharper. Daniel's posture stiffened. Victoria's eyes raked over Elena. "And you must be the..." Teacher Elena didn't flinch. "Elena Rivera, it's a pleasure." Victoria's lips twitched. "How modest of you to come." Daniel's jaw clenched, but Elena squeezed his arm. "I've got this, actually," Elena said smoothly. "Daniel invited me to speak about the children your donations support. I'd love to tell you about Javi Hare's 8. Loves dinosaurs. Wouldn't have gotten his asthma medication without last year's fundraiser." Victoria blinked. A nearby socialite, Lillian, Elena remembered from the articles, nodded. "How touching. But let's be honest. You're here for the same reason we all are. The networking," Elena smiled. "If by networking you mean making sure these galas actually help people, then yes." A beat of silence. Then, to Elena's shock, a few guests chuckled. Victoria's smile turned venomous. "Well, enjoy the charity case, Daniel." She sauntered off, her entourage trailing behind. Daniel exhaled, his shoulder brushing Elena's. "You're incredible." Elena's pulse raced. "I think I just made an enemy." "Good." His thumb traced the back of her hand. She was never a friend. The auction, the evening's centerpiece, was the charity auction, a chance for the wealthy to flaunt their generosity. The auctioneer, a jovial man with a waxed mustache, announced the first item. A week in Daniel's private villa in Santorini. Bidding started at $50,000. Victoria immediately raised her paddle. $100,000? Elena's stomach dropped. That sum could fund her entire classroom for years. The bids climbed. $150,000, $200,000, until Victoria smirked and called. $250,000. The room applauded. The auctioneer raised his gavel, going, "Once $500,000. The crowd gasped. Elena had spoken. Every head swiveled toward her. Daniel went utterly still beside her. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" The auctioneer stammered. Miss Rivera, did you just— I bid $500,000, Elena repeated, her voice steady. With one condition, a hushed silence fell. She stood, her gown shimmering under the lights. This isn't for the villa. Want every dollar to go directly to the New Horizons program, a fund for students in underfunded schools to get supplies, tutors, and medical care. The room erupted. Victoria shot to her feet. That's not how this works. Daniel rose beside Elena, his voice cutting through the chaos. It does now. The auctioneer gaped. Mr. Whitmore, you're backing this bid? Daniel didn't hesitate. Every penny. Elena's heart swelled as applause broke out. Some hesitant, some enthusiastic. A few socialites even raised their paddles in solidarity. Victoria's face flushed with rage. You're making a mockery of this event. Elena met her glare. No, I'm reminding everyone what charity means. The room buzzed. Porters snapped photos. And in that moment, Elena realized she'd won. The aftermath as the gala wound down. Guests approached Elena, some curious, some genuinely moved. A silver-haired woman, CEO of a major publishing house, pressed a card into her hand. Call me. Let's discuss funding for your school. Elena was still reeling when Daniel found her on the terrace, the city lights sprawling below them. You, he said, were magnificent. She laughed breathlessly. I think I blacked out. He stepped closer, his hand brushing her waist. No, you were alive. More than anyone in there. The air between them crackled. Elena's gaze dropped to his lips. Then Daniel. Victoria's voice shattered the moment. She stood in the doorway, her expression icy. A word. Alone. Daniel's jaw tightened. Not now. Your investors are furious. Right. They want to know if you've lost your mind. Elena stiffened. I should go. Daniel caught her wrist. Stay. Victoria's laugh was brittle. Oh, this is rich. It's a billionaire and the teacher. Tell me, Elena, how does it feel to be his latest pity project? Elena yanked her hand free. You don't know me. I know your type. You think you're different? I'll toss you aside like the rest? Daniel stepped between them, his voice deadly calm. Enough. Victoria's eyes glittered with fury. Then she spun on her heel and stormed off. The silence that followed was heavy. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. Maybe she's right. Daniel turned to her, his hands framing her face. She's not. His thumb brushed her cheek, his gaze searching hers. Then, slowly, he leaned in, and a camera flash blinded them. A paparazzo, lurking in the shadows, grinned. This'll make a great headline. Dono cursed, pulling Elena behind him, but the damage was done. The night that had started with a triumph was ending in scandal, and tomorrow, the world would see it. The morning after, Elena's phone buzzed violently at 6 a.m., unknown number, gold digging. Teacher sinks claws into Whitmore Fortune page 6 exclusive. She sat up, heart pounding. The attached photos showed Daniel's hands on her face, their bodies close on the terrace, the intimacy undeniable. The headline screamed, Billionaire's charity case turns into love affair, but is she just after his money? Rosa burst into her room, waving her own phone. Elena, have you seen this? Elena's stomach twisted, the article quoted. Anonymous sources Victoria, no doubt calling her a social climber, a distraction, a risk to Daniel's business. The comments were worse. Of course she bid $500,000. She knew he'd pay for it. Teachers don't date billionaires unless they want a payout. Whitmore's losing his damn mind. Elena threw the phone down. I need to talk to Daniel. Daniel's war room across town. Daniel's penthouse was in chaos. His PR team huddled around the dining table, laptops open, while Marcus paced like a caged animal. Harrison just called. He's pulling out of the merger unless you distance yourself from her. Daniel didn't look up from his coffee. Then he's gone. Marcus slammed his hands on the table. This isn't a joke. The board is panicking. Victoria's father is leaking shit to every media outlet I know. Daniel's voice was iced. His phone buzzed Elena. He answered immediately. Her voice was strained. Did you see the article? Daniel exhaled. Yeah. A pause. Then quietly. Maybe I should bow out. No. His grip tightened on the phone. We're not letting them win. Daniel, your company will survive. He stood, ignoring Marcus's glare. Meet me at the school. 1 hour. School visit. Alina waited outside the school gates, arms crossed against the autumn chill. When Daniel's car pulled up, she braced for paparazzi, but he'd come alone, dressed down in a sweater and jeans. No suit, no entourage, just him. Hey, he said softly. She swallowed. Hey. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then he reached for her hand. Come on. He led her inside, past the worn lockers and peeling paint, straight to her classroom. The second her students saw him, they erupted. Mr. Whitmore. Daniel grinned as they swarmed him, tiny hands tugging his sleeves, voices overlapping with questions. Alina watched, stunned, as he knelt to eye level with a shy boy named Miguel. You like robots? Daniel asked, spotting the doodle on Miguel's notebook. Miguel nodded. Daniel pulled out his phone, showing him a prototype from his tech lab. Someday you can build one of these. Lena's throat tightened. This wasn't the cold billionaire from the headlines. This was the man she'd seen glimpses of, the one who listened, who cared. When the bell rang, her students groaned. Daniel high-fived each one on their way out. Then it was just the two of them. Alina leaned against her desk. You're good with them? Daniel shrugged. Kids are honest. No agendas. Silence settled between them. Outside, rain began to patter against the windows. Alina took a deep breath. Daniel, what are we doing? He stepped closer. What do you want to do? She hesitated.
You what?
I don't want to ruin your life. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. We're the only thing in it that isn't ruined. The air between them crackled. Then bang! Classroom door flew open. A soaked paparazzo stood there, camera raised. Smile for the press, lovebirds. Daniel moved instantly, shielding Alina as the man snapped photo after photo. Get out. Intruder just laughed. Relax, Whitmore. The world's dying to see your little fling with the Daniel grabbed the camera and yanked it away. I said, get out. The man paled, scrambling back. You'll hear from my lawyer. Daniel tossed the camera into the hallway. Looking forward to it, he slammed the door, chest heaving. Alina stared at him, her pulse racing. Then suddenly she laughed. Daniel blinked. What? You just assaulted a reporter for me. God. He ran a hand through his hair. Yeah, I did. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. That's the stupidest, most reckless. He kissed her. Alina froze, then melted into him, her fingers tangling in his sweater. The world outside the scandal, the investors' Victoria faded to nothing. When they pulled apart, Daniel rested, his forehead against hers. I don't care what they say. I want you. Elena's breath hitched. Even if it costs you everything. He smiled. Maybe you're worth it. Victoria's last move, Victoria Kensington, wasn't used to losing. She stood in her father's office, watching the live feed of Daniel and Elena's romantic school visit splashed across every news outlet. Her father, Charles Kensington, scowled. At the screen, you let this teacher upstage you. Victoria's nails dug into her palms.
Ow.
She picked up her phone and dialed a number she'd hoped never to use. Hello, Daily Post? I have an exclusive. The leak that evening, Elena's phone exploded. Breaking. Elena Rivera's dark secret family ties to crime ring. She nearly dropped her coffee. The article claimed her estranged father, who had left when she was 6, had been arrested for petty theft years ago. A nothing story twisted into something ugly. Is Daniel Whitmore's new flame hiding a criminal past? Rosa grabbed the phone. This is bullshit. Elena's hands shook. They'll use anything. Then Daniel called. His voice was tight. Elena, whatever you're seeing, ignore it. She choked out a laugh. Easy for you to say. Handling it, she hesitated. How? A pause. Then quietly. Meet me at the pier. Tonight, trust me. The pier. Elena found Daniel at the end of the dock, the city lights reflecting on the water. He turned as she approached, his expression unreadable. You okay? He asked. She crossed her arms. Define okay? He exhaled. The leak. came from Victoria. Elena's stomach dropped. I figured. Daniel stepped closer. I confronted her father. Told him if another smear piece comes out, I'll expose his dirty laundry, the offshore accounts, the bribes. Elena gaped. You blackmailed Charles Kensington? Daniel smirked. I prefer negotiated. She stared at him. Then, despite everything, she laughed. You're insane. He reached for her hand. But I'm yours. The wind picked up, sending ripples across the water. Lena leaned into him. What now? She whispered. Daniel pressed a kiss to her hair. And now we fight back. The press conference, the ballroom of the Whitmore Tower, was packed reporters. Investors and curious onlookers, all waiting to see how Daniel Whitmore would address the scandal. Elena stood backstage, her stomach in knots. You don't have to. Do this, Daniel murmured, adjusting his tie. She smoothed her blazer deep blue, professional but defiant. Yes, I do. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Then let's show them who we really are. The moment they stepped into the spotlight, cameras flashed like lightning. Daniel took the podium first, his voice steady. Over the past week, my personal life has been dissected, my integrity questioned, and the woman I care about dragged through the mud. He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. So today, I'm setting the record straight. He turned, extending a hand to Elena. She stepped forward, heart pounding. The room held its breath. Then she spoke. My name is Elena Rivera. I'm a teacher, and I'm not ashamed of that. Her voice didn't waver. What I am ashamed of is how quickly people assumed the worst about me, about Daniel, about us just because I don't come from money. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Daniel took over, which is why effective immediately. Rothel Industries is launching the New Horizons Education Initiative, a $100 million fund to rebuild schools, train teachers, and provide scholarships for underprivileged students. He glanced at Elena. Co-chaired by the most passionate educator I've ever met. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Investors whispered furiously. And then, do you have a response to Victoria Kensington's claims? Daniel's jaw tightened. But before he could answer, Elena did. Victoria Kensington, she said calmly, has never stepped foot in a public school. She's never comforted a child who couldn't afford lunch. So no, I don't care what she thinks. A stunned silence. Then applause. Daniel's hand found hers under the podium. They'd won. The reopening 6 months later. Elena stood in front of her newly renovated school, its brick facade gleaming. Its classrooms filled with light. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was packed students, parents, even a few of the socialites who'd once mocked her. Daniel stood beside her, grinning as the kids raced inside to see their new library, their science lab, their real desks instead of broken hand-me-downs. Happy. He murmured. Elena watched as little Miguel, the shy boy who loved robots, gasped at the brand-new tech station, ecstatic. Then, in front of everyone, Daniel dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped. Elena's hands flew to her mouth. Elena Rivera, he said, holding up a simple diamond ring. You taught me that love isn't about money or status. It's about showing up. So let me show up for you every day, for the rest of our lives. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she pulled him up, kissing him fiercely. The crowd cheered, and in the back, unnoticed, Victoria Kensington slipped out the door. Epilogue, a different kind of wealth 1 year later. The New Horizons initiative had expanded to 12 cities. Elena still taught twice a week for sanity. She joked, but now her lesson plans included field trips to Daniel's robotics labs, where her students built prototypes alongside engineers. Daniel, for his part, had never been happier. Board meetings were less about profit margins and more about impact. His investors, once skeptical, now bragged about their social responsibility. And every morning, he woke up beside the woman who'd turned his world upside down. Think we'll ever stop surprising them? Lena asked one night, curled against him in their penthouse. Daniel laughed. I hope not. Not sighed the city lights. Glittered a kingdom they'd reshaped. Not with wealth, but with something far more powerful, love, and a little defiance.